There's a reason why the most powerful people in history seem to operate from behind a veil of mystery. And it's not what you think. It's not about being secretive or manipulative. It's about understanding a fundamental law of human psychology that most people violate every single day. The moment you reveal everything about yourself, your plans, or your capabilities, you lose the most valuable form of leverage you possess. And today I'm going to show you why strategic concealment isn't just smart. It's essential for anyone who wants to maintain real power and influence in any situation. Think about the most captivating people you've ever met. I guarantee they all shared one quality. They made you feel like there was always more beneath the surface. They never seemed to be performing or trying to impress you. Instead, they carried themselves with a quiet confidence that suggested hidden depths. This isn't an accident. This is strategic mystery in action, and it's one of the most powerful psychological tools you can master. Let me tell you a story about Benjamin Disraeli, one of Britain's most successful prime ministers. Disraeli was known for his ability to navigate the treacherous waters of 19th century politics while maintaining influence with everyone from Queen Victoria to his political enemies. But here's what made him truly masterful. He perfected the art of strategic revelation. He would share just enough information to seem transparent and trustworthy, but never enough to be completely predictable. When negotiating with foreign diplomats, Disraeli would hint at resources and alliances that Britain possessed without ever confirming exact details. When dealing with domestic political rivals, he would suggest knowledge of their activities without revealing his sources. This created what psychologists now call uncertainty anxiety. People become obsessed with what they don't know about you, which actually increases your influence over them. Disraeli understood something profound about human nature. When people can't fully categorize you, when they can't predict your next move, when they sense there's more to you than meets the eye, their brain goes into what neuroscientists call gap-filling mode. They become psychologically invested in figuring you out, which means they're thinking about you far more than they would if you were an open book. This isn't manipulation. This is understanding how attention and influence actually work in the human mind. The moment someone thinks they have you completely figured out, their interest level drops dramatically. But maintain some element of mystery, some sense of hidden capabilities or knowledge, and they remain engaged, curious, and surprisingly deferential to your judgment. Robert Greene explores this concept brilliantly in Law 3 of the 48 Laws of Power. Conceal your intentions. But the principle goes far deeper than just hiding your goals. It's about understanding that predictability is the enemy of influence. When people can anticipate your every move, they can prepare counter-strategies, manipulate your responses, and ultimately gain advantage over you. Think about poker for a moment. A player who shows their cards immediately loses all leverage in the hand. But poker is just a microcosm of life. Every interaction you have involves some element of strategic information exchange. The person who reveals less while learning more typically comes out ahead. This isn't about being dishonest. It's about being strategically selective with what you reveal and when. The ancient Chinese strategist Sun Tzu built an entire philosophy around this principle. He wrote, "All warfare is based on deception, But he wasn't talking about lying. He was talking about controlling the flow of information so that your opponents make decisions based on incomplete data, while you operate from a position of superior knowledge. In modern terms, this translates to what behavioral economists call information asymmetry. The person with better information consistently makes better decisions and achieves better outcomes. But here's the crucial insight. You create information asymmetry, not just by gathering more information, but by revealing less of what you know. Let's break down the psychology of why concealment creates power. First, there's the scarcity principle. Anything that's rare or limited becomes more valuable. When your thoughts, plans, and reactions are easily available to everyone, they lose psychological value. But when people have to work to understand you, when they only get glimpses of your true thinking, those glimpses become incredibly valuable to them. Second, there's what psychologists call the confirmation bias trap. When you reveal everything about your position, you give other people the information they need to argue against you effectively. They can prepare counterpoints, find weaknesses in your logic, and position themselves strategically. But when you reveal only carefully selected information, people often fill in the gaps in ways that actually support your position. Third, there's the authority amplification effect. Uncertainty about someone's capabilities tends to make people assume those capabilities are greater than they actually are. When a person speaks with quiet confidence but doesn't reveal the full extent of their knowledge or resources, others typically overestimate rather than underestimate what they're dealing with. From a Stoic perspective, this principle aligns perfectly with the concept of controlling what you can control. Marcus Aurelius wrote extensively about the power of internal fortitude, maintaining your center regardless of external circumstances. Part of that internal strength comes from not needing external validation or approval, which naturally creates an aura of mystery because you're not constantly explaining yourself or seeking agreement. The Stoics understood that the person who needs to convince everyone of their worth has already demonstrated their weakness. True confidence doesn't need to announce itself. True capability doesn't need to be constantly proven. This creates what modern psychologists call effortless superiority, the sense that someone is operating from a different level without having to demonstrate it overtly. But here's where most people completely misunderstand this principle. They think concealment means being cold, distant, or secretive in obvious ways. That's amateur hour thinking. Sophisticated concealment involves being warm, engaging, and apparently open, while strategically controlling what actually gets revealed. The master practitioners of this art are incredible listeners who ask thoughtful questions and seem genuinely interested in other people. They share stories and insights that feel personal and authentic. But if you analyze their conversations carefully, you'd realize they revealed very little substantive information about their current plans, resources, or strategic thinking, while learning enormous amounts about everyone else. Think about how this applies to professional situations. The person who immediately explains all their qualifications, reveals their entire strategy, and shares every detail of their background appears transparent, but actually demonstrates poor strategic thinking. Meanwhile, the person who lets their competence emerge gradually through questions, insights, and subtle demonstrations of expertise creates much more powerful impressions. This is particularly crucial in negotiations. The moment you reveal your bottom line, your timeline, or your alternative options, you've given the other party the information they need to extract maximum concessions from you. But if you maintain strategic ambiguity about these crucial elements, while systematically discovering theirs, you operate from a position of enormous advantage. Here's a practical framework for implementing strategic concealment ethically and effectively. First, distinguish between transparency and oversharing. Transparency means being honest and authentic. Oversharing means providing information that serves no productive purpose and potentially weakens your position. Second, master the art of strategic questioning. Instead of making statements that reveal your position, ask questions that reveal other people's positions. What do you think would be a fair outcome? Is infinitely more powerful than, here's what I think would be fair. The first approach gathers intelligence while maintaining flexibility. The second approach reveals your hand and locks you into a position. Third, develop what I call layered revelation. Share information in stages based on how the relationship and situation develop. Early interactions might involve sharing values and general approaches. Deeper relationships might warrant sharing more specific strategies and concerns, but always maintain some level of strategic reserve. Fourth, become comfortable with silence and ambiguity. Most people rush to fill conversational gaps with explanations, justifications, or additional information. But strategic silence often prompts other people to reveal more while keeping your own position unclear. The dark psychology aspect of this principle is worth acknowledging. Predatory individuals often use strategic concealment to exploit others, hiding crucial information that would help people make better decisions about trusting them. The difference between ethical strategic concealment and manipulation comes down to intent and mutual benefit. Ethical concealment protects your interests while respecting others' legitimate interests. Manipulative concealment exploits others' incomplete information for your gain at their expense. The ethical practitioner conceals strategic information while being honest about character and intentions. The manipulator conceals character and intentions while appearing strategically transparent. From a Machiavellian perspective, strategic concealment is simply intelligent self-preservation. Niccolò Machiavelli observed that political survival required maintaining multiple options while avoiding premature commitment to any single course of action. This requires concealing your full hand until you're ready to play it decisively. But Machiavelli also understood that concealment without substance is ultimately hollow. You can't just be mysterious. You have to be mysteriously competent. The concealment has to protect real capabilities, genuine insights, or legitimate advantages. Otherwise, you're just creating suspense around mediocrity, which eventually gets exposed. Here's how to start implementing this immediately. In your next important conversation, try reversing your typical communication ratio. If you usually talk 60% of the time and listen 40%, flip it. Ask more questions, make fewer declarative statements, and resist the urge to immediately share your thoughts on every topic that comes up. Pay attention to how this changes the dynamic. Notice how people become more engaged when they have to work slightly to understand your perspective. Observe how they start attributing more expertise and influence to you when you're not constantly demonstrating it overtly. Practice strategic ambiguity in low-stakes situations first. When someone asks about your weekend plans instead of giving a detailed itinerary, try something like, "I'm looking forward to some interesting possibilities." When colleagues ask about your approach to a project, share your principles without revealing your specific tactics. But remember this crucial balance. Concealment should enhance authentic relationships, not replace them. The goal isn't to become a mysterious figure that no one can connect with. The goal is to become someone whose depth and capabilities are gradually revealed, rather than immediately obvious. The most successful people throughout history weren't necessarily those with the most talent or resources. They were those who understood how to deploy their talents and resources strategically. They knew when to reveal and when to conceal, when to demonstrate and when to suggest, when to be transparent and when to maintain strategic ambiguity. Because here's the ultimate truth about power and influence. The moment people think they have you completely figured out is the moment you lose your ability to surprise them, influence them, or maintain their respect. But when you operate with strategic depth, when there's always a sense that there's more beneath the surface, you maintain what every truly powerful person possesses, the ability to exceed expectations and influence outcomes. Your cards are your most valuable assets. Play them wisely, reveal them strategically, and never ever show them all at once. The people who understand this game will always have an advantage over those who don't. The question is whether you'll join the ranks of those who play strategically or remain among those who reveal everything and wonder why they never seem to hold the winning hand.